Star Wars Outlaws is obviously one of the most anticipated games for many gamers coming out this year. It is a game that is being published by Ubisoft and developed by Massive Entertainment. Well, I've got some good news for you. Ubisoft invited your boy out to basically get a hands-off sort of preview of Star Wars Outlaw. I was able to sit back and watch 30 minutes of uninterrupted gameplay from a work-in-progress build of the game about a week or two ago, and today Ubisoft is allowing me to basically talk about it and give you guys pretty much my impressions on the game from what I've seen. Of course, disclaimer, this is possible thanks to me being a Ubisoft creator, and pretty much they just want me to give my honest opinion about what I saw, and that's what I'm here to do today. So really, I want to talk a little bit about what we saw and a little bit of like my impressions. I wrote notes of the entire experience, anything that I noticed notable about the gameplay, and yeah, so let's get into it. They did allow me to see over 30 minutes of gameplay. What you're seeing now is B-roll, so it's not exactly the exact same footage that I saw, but it's very close. Again, for full context, I did not get hands-on, so I could not play it myself physically. So a lot of this was me just watching the gameplay footage while someone else played it. This is in fact a work-in-progress build, so everything you're watching, while it is recorded of the highest quality, and I'm assuming on PC, or maybe this is an Xbox based off of the input, I'm not really sure, this is still a work-in-progress build, which means they aren't done with it, and I think they said there might be a couple little bugs here and there you might see, but nothing overall that I think was really like game-breaking from what I watched. So in this demo, we got to see basically three types of quests being played out. These three are called False Flag, the Wreck, and the Relic. I'll go through each of these quests individually, and the reason they showcased it like this is because they wanted to show the different types of things you'll be doing within this game. So False Flag has you pretty much inside of an Imperial space station, I think, and you're basically trying to get to your ship and offload something and basically steal something from the Imperial space station and get away with it. In the footage, one thing that they really wanted to stress was Nyx, which is that little critter, that little cute little critter you see running around. So Nyx is the companion that the player gets to call out to, and as you can clearly see in the gameplay, there's actually commands that you can give Nyx. Mainly, he'll help you in combat, but he can also, which seems to be the thing he's best at, he can help you in stealth. So Nyx can distract enemies, allowing you to sneak by them, or you can take them out while Nyx is distracting them. Nyx can also notify you of enemies through like some sort of like sonar ping, and the other cool thing is that there's always like items and certain weapons that are laid out in the level. You can command Nyx basically to grab them for you and bring them to you if you need to. That's actually really cool. There's one thing you'll probably notice very early on with this footage, and as I progress throughout all the other footage that I have, is that you'll notice there's actually a decent amount of stealth elements in this game. Probably a lot more than I think some people are expecting. So there seem to be some areas where maybe it does require stealth, but it doesn't seem like the whole game is like more like a Splinter Cell game. It's not like you have to have stealth. It's just like it's one of those things where if you like to play stealthy, this game does encourage it. There's even a slicing mini game for hacking computers. So there's terminals that you can access where you have to do a cool mini game, and then also when you want to slice open doors, there's also a mini game you have to do for that. I was really kind of unsure from what I visually watched because they didn't bring up any sort of like tutorial like UI. So I really didn't know how this mini game worked necessarily. And there's also, like I said, this like data spike mini game, which seems pretty straightforward from what you can expect from like other lockpicking type mini games. The combat mainly here is pretty much all third-person shooter with some cover mechanics. There's additional weapons that, of course, like I said before, that Kay can pick up on the battlefield. Mainly, she carries around the blaster exclusively, but it seems like there are additional weapons, not just that you can utilize. Really, the way that it was described to me by a developer is that the combat has three main modes. So you have a plasma module, and that's basically like your primary damage, is doing basic damage to people. Then you have an ion module. This is for basically shooting at shields and overcharging droids, basically. So it's very like basically electronics taking down shields. And then you have a stun mode. It's a very powerful mode where you can take out regular enemies with one shot, but because of how powerful this module is, it's on a cooldown. Kate also has the sort of kind of an ultimate ability that she can use after filling up a meter. This is very similar to Deadeye, or for my Splinter Cell fans, you guys might remember that mark and execute system that was in Splinter Cell Conviction. It seems like that same type of mechanic returns here as a special ability that you can basically eliminate multiple enemies with just the press of a button. I could be wrong about this, but from what I could perceive in the footage, there seems to be a sort of like GTA Wanted system in this game as well. You might notice that in the footage after Kay escapes escapes the Imperial station, she gets a wanted status, and then in the top left corner, there seems to be some sort of like layered system showing how much heat Kay has on her, or like how hard the Imperial like forces are like basically hunting her. And it seems like this system pretty much persists not only just in this like little segment, this little quest segment of the open world, but throughout wherever you're running in the galaxy. So then moving into the spaceship combat, it reminded me quite a bit of Starfield's spaceship combat a little bit, which I think was for a lot of people a little bit to be desired compared to what I believe is arguably the best in a very long time, which I would say is Star Wars Squadrons. Your ship has a shield and health bar as well, and then it also has a boost fuel as well. The sound design overall is very authentic from what I listened to, and it sounds just like any Star Wars movie. While in space, there's seem to be some sort of like treasure locations located throughout space, and I'm assuming that Kay can probably investigate these areas while you're, flying around in space, and you can find some cool loot within these like sort of like debris fields. As you can see here, after basically fighting off some Imperial fighters, you'll see that there's these Imperial comm relays, and you can clear your wanted signal by basically, I guess, scrambling these relays, and then it will stop the Empire from hunting her when she's moving throughout the open world. Now, the space to planet transition, I can happily report, is much smoother than Starfield's. Once you reach a planet, there seems to be certain locations that you're allowed to land at. This means that it's not like a planet where you can just pick anywhere and try to land there. There's specific hubs that you're allowed to pick from a list in the menu, and then from there, from what I could see from in the footage, there's no loading screens whatsoever. It just transitions you directly from space through the clouds onto the planet, and then it lands you with a really nice cinematic landing sequence. From what I could tell in the footage, I don't think that this is player controlled. I think the game probably like locks you into an animation to play the whole thing through. So if you were looking for a way that you could just fly around planets, at least from what I could see in the footage, it doesn't look like that's the case. But either way, it's still nice to see that there's not a loading screens that you have to go through in order for you to transition from space and other different missions. And that's something that's really positive that I will say off rip from all the footage that they showed, is I do like that from a technical standpoint, the game seems to do a very good job of just keeping you immersed in the Star Wars universe and trying to keep away as many technical like loading and other technical things that need to be running in order for the game to actually work. It seems like a lot of them have been hidden very well within the game systems. The open world hub of planets is also really cool, very authentic looking, like I said, very immersive, as you clearly can see as you're walking through the streets of this planet. For example, in the B-roll, you'll notice that there's NPCs moving around, and it really makes the city feel alive. You hear people having conversations, or you see Imperial patrols like walking through the street, just like you would see like in any Star Wars TV show or movie. And like I said, really got to give a pro here. I actually barely noticed any technical issues. The game looked like it ran really smooth, which is really nice to see. The cutscenes also look really decent as well, while of course it's important to note that they did say there was some technical little mishap with the voice syncing that they're still fixing, at least in this footage, so you might notice a little bit of it being a little bit off, but overall it still looks pretty authentic. And I have to say, graphically speaking, the game does look really nice, especially looking at it from the raw 4K footage. I'm pretty sure YouTube will not do it justice. Okay, and so that moves us to the second mission that they showed us, called The Wreck. And this is a mission where Kay is exploring a High Republic cruiser in the search of a nav computer. Yes, that's what they told me. This is a High Republic cruiser, so, that's pretty interesting. The environment for this mission actually was really breathtaking. I think every second when in the opening shot and even near the end, it really amazing. Whoever did the environment art for this game, really give yourself a pat on the back, did a phenomenal job. I think it's really awesome to see that these games are now starting to add the brand new lore of the High Republic into the game universe, because I believe this game takes place within the original trilogy, like when the Empire is currently relevant, so that's really interesting. Overall, this mission, it feels a lot like Uncharted, definitely. So in this footage, you actually get to see Kay having a grapple hook that she can use to basically reach certain locations, and there's also wall climbing as well. Like I said, very similar mechanics to something that you will definitely see a little bit of platforming, just like in an Uncharted game. There's even the famously used like running segments while things are blowing up around you as well. Nyx is in this mission, as I said before, shows off a little bit of his sonar capability, allowing you to reveal interactable elements. So not only can you use it in combat to ping enemies, but you can also use it to find little puzzle pieces that Kay can use to help traverse like an area that you're trying to get through. Now, apparently there are different ways that you can make your little companion happy. I noticed this with a sort of achievement popping up with things that Kay was finding in the environment, so there seems to be some cool little interactions there. And then for the combat section of this quest, we also are shown that Kay has access to some additional pieces of equipment, such as a grenade, a smoke bomb, and also electro binoculars. I'm pretty sure that all those are pretty self-explanatory. She can shoot behind cover, and Nyx can also trap objects and have them explode, giving Kay some opportunity attacks as well. Now, if Kay's blaster does overheat, there is a reload mechanic very similar to the perfect reload that you see in like Gears of War, and I think also like Star Wars Battlefront also used the same system as well. We also get to see just a minute amount of like speeder gameplay. It looks like Kay can not only just jump and dodge on the speeder, but can also shoot on it as well. Really nothing else of important note here. There is definitely a little cool segment where she has to avoid these hunters that are chasing her, and there's a cutscene with probably another companion or pretty much an antagonist that is hunting her. And so then now we have the final quest that they showcase, where it's a completely different setting, different planet, and I really love this environment as well. Again, hats off to the environment design. This one takes place in a very snowy location. It reminds me a lot of that initial scene from Mandalorian. Really love that from season 1. And so in this quest, there's a relic that Kay's trying to get her hands on, and in order for her to obtain it, she needs to infiltrate a Crimson Dawn Syndicate hideout and steal this relic. So apparently with this mission, the cool thing about this is that Kay can cause reputation changes of like how other syndicates perceive her based off of her actions. And in the thing that she's doing in this mission, she's doing it for I believe they're called the Ashaga clan. This will help increase her standing with that clan by helping recover a relic that belonged to them, while also if she gets caught while doing this, it apparently would affect the standing of the Crimson Dawn clan, since she's technically stealing from them. I feel like this mission kind of reminds me a lot more of a Tomb Raider game. Like you're sneaking, you're trying to get your hands on a relic, you're trying to find these things, basically see this footage and kind of like say, hey, this is like basically open world Star Wars Uncharted, which I don't think is that far-fetched, and that might be something you're really into, or something that kind of like you're not into. So it's really, I think, up to the person. Much like the other missions, stealth once again seems to be a very important aspect of this game, at least in this mission as well. So if you're not a real fan of like, stealth mechanics, that might be a little bit disappointing, but at no point did I see in the game where it's like you have to play stealth no matter what. It seems like the game's still giving you the options to choose how you wish to engage with it, but it's probably going to be one of those things where stealth is probably gets you rewarded the most. There doesn't seem to be any mechanics that allow you to move bodies or hide them, and I feel like if you're already doing stealth elements, I feel like that's a really crucial thing that a lot of like stealth players like to have, is the ability to move the bodies of people that you've knocked out, just so if another patrol comes by, they don't see those bodies. So maybe that's my like one little criticism. Overall, everything else looks pretty good. Oh, also, I know as well, there is fall damage in this game, and on top of that, there seems to be combat roles that you can do, that you can execute while you're in combat, and as you're also moving between cover as well as sliding as well. In this mission, you basically have to steal this relic, and then when you get it back, you return it to the Ashaga clan, and it basically prompts a sort of like new relationship that you get. So I think that's really cool that they're building missions where, it's not just positive for everybody. There's like a positive and a negative reaction. Like some people might like you for doing the thing that you're doing, and then some people might dislike you for the thing that you're doing. So it makes me wonder if in the future, this game will actually have some sort of like, karma system in a way, or like where, you do positive actions for certain people and, you're rewarded, and then if you do negative actions, some negative effects that happen to you. I think with also the wanted system as well, I'm pretty sure I read somewhere as well that when you piss certain factions off, they might send bounty hunters after to come get you in the open world. I think that stuff's going to be really cool, but I didn't get to see any of that in this gameplay footage. But overall, my impressions of this is that I think it looks really solid. I think if you are a fan of open world action games, adventure games, I think you'll really like this game here. I don't think that this game really does anything truly new and unique. I think it does something very similar to like kind of like I think the phenomenon that like Hogwarts had, where it wasn't that necessarily these games are innovative or that they're trying to push the envelope some way or somehow. It's really just something that is very familiar to things that you've played before, but the uniqueness comes from the immersive factor of being in this universe that hasn't been at least in a long time, hasn't been explored in this type of way, which is an open world Star Wars game. I'm not saying there hasn't been open world Star Wars games. I'm just saying that as of recent times, there hasn't been that many for obvious reasons. So, but now with like, a lot more studios getting their chance to do this, now we're getting a new one with Outlaws, and this is a completely different take. This one, there's no Jedi. You don't play as a Jedi. This one, you're playing more of the smuggler fantasy, the Han Solo fantasy. So if you've ever been like a fan of Star Wars and you've been like, you're a Han Solo fan, or you've always been like, I really love the smuggler fantasy more than just being a Jedi with lightsabers, this game might be right up your alley. Looks like an open world game. It acts like an open world game. Like if it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. I will say that there seems to be definitely a very great, like an excellent attention to detail. And this is, of course, expected, especially from Massive, the developers. These are the same people that made The Division 2 and most recently the Avatar game. And both of those games, I think everyone agrees to. Those are things that I think Massive always nails. I think the big things that people are going to be curious about is, does the story deliver? Is it engaging? Are the characters fun and engaging as well? And then, of course, what are the other additional gameplay things? Because I think from a combat standpoint, the combat engine seems pretty, straightforward. And I think it's just because they're trying to hit the lower common denominator because, kids are going to want to play this. Teenagers are going to want to play this. But of course, is there enough additional mechanics to this game, whether it's skill trees or additional mechanics that they just haven't shown yet, that's really going to get someone like myself who's older to really want to be engaged with this game fully. Overall, I'm really excited to see more. I hope this was very informative and gave you a pretty good impression on Star Wars Outlaws. If you'd like to check out some of my other videos where I talk about first-person perspective games or turn-based games, I've got a bunch of videos that are really cool, from analysis to reviews. Been doing this for a very long time. You can check out those videos on my YouTube channel. All right, guys, I'll see you later. Peace out.
So you gonna try your luck?
I don't know, Kanaya. I'm pretty rusty.
ND5. Guess who's going to see the Queen? They must want this relic bad.
Good work. You should be terrified.
What? Why?
They may perceive you as the thief.
Oh, right. I'll be fine. A lot of security here. Crimson Dawn knew what they were doing. Easy.
The Banpudira. Who are you?
Kay Vess, Your Majesty.
She was asking about the bomb maker.
But I also got this relic back for you from Crimson Dawn.
Our expansion has made us vulnerable, Mother.
It will make the Hive stronger.
We don't need the Outer Rim. Our place is here.
We have decided.
Okay, so relic's back. You gonna let Ant go now?
The bomb maker. She is essential to our expansion. But the Hive also has great use for a thief like you. Work with us. And we will let Ankh go free.
Mother.
We got a deal then. Great. I'll just leave you to talk this out.